Final word daily. It's getting a bit awkward now. We've had the same result happen again. Australia have absolutely battered Pakistan. Somehow aren't through to the semi-finals yet, but that's just due to net run rate permutation and extremities. It's brought to you by Ambassador Cruise Line. Me and Daniel are on two of our 3-day hotel extravaganza, but we're not actually at the ground. But they will be back there soon. Don't worry about it. And to sum up today, in 30 seconds, is Daniel Norcross. Can't say your name recently. It's the second day in a row I've got it wrong. Daniel Norcross. 30 seconds. There you go.
Mercy. Mercy. Make something happen. Same old. Pakistan never had enough runs. And they were hampered slightly by the tragic loss of Fatima Sana's father. We'll come to that. So she wasn't there, didn't have their captain. Australia lost 2 players to injury, one after 2 balls, one after 10 overs. And they sauntered to the easiest of victories. Pakistan making a pitiful 82 and Australia getting there with 9 overs to spare. There's in that everything that you really need to know. We could almost just stop now. But this torture will soon come to an end because we've got some good games coming. I promise you we've got some good games coming. We just haven't had any for a little while.
So Australia are 3 from 3. They have not had an opponent make 3 figures against them yet. There are some quite genuinely remarkable stats to kind of get your head around. First of all, Megan Shute, congratulations, has become the leading WT20I wicket taker in the world. She moves on to 144, overtaking...
Big Neds, Nida Dar. We send our congratulations from everybody in the Final Word community.
Absolutely. And her stats for this World Cup, I actually know them off the top of my head. I don't even need to look at them.
No.
10.2 overs, 2 maidens, 7 for 22.
Yow.
She is going at less than 2.2 and over, and she is averaging 3 with the ball, which I think is a very good kind of snapshot of the domination and lopsidedness of a lot of the matches we're seeing. I think it genuinely feels a bit dumb to hone in on the match. I think the wider impact on this tournament has been in the 2 injuries to Australia's players, and it's incredibly sad for Tayla Valeminck. I realised that was one of those words I've only ever read.
And it's quite a weird one to read,
and before, I don't think I even pronounce it in my head. I just see it, and I know what it is, and I know who it is. Yeah. And then today I realised it was my job to say it, and I went, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, imagine my life, mate.
I do.
When we did the World Cup in Mebeja, that was no picnic.
Yeah. I don't against that now. Anyway, so very, very upsettingly for her, she comes into the team. Then the second ball of the match, she's chasing the ball down to the boundary. Her knees get stuck as she's sliding to stop the ball, but it's not actually the knee she injures because the knee stopping effectively rolls her as if she's like a car, basically, and she pops her shoulder out. The clip of her walking back up the steps is really, really upsetting, but it's just both from just an emotional level, and you can see the amount of discomfort she's in because she is kind of doubled over, and it didn't take a doctor to go, I think that's dislocated.
You know something's wrong when people fall, right? So she pulled the ball back. She didn't even look to see where the ball was. She just clutched herself in agony and didn't move. So it's a very good, if ever you watch other sports like football and you see them writhing, the writhers, there's nothing wrong with the writhers. When you're in terrible pain, you cannot writhe. She was in terrible pain and she was completely still. It was ghastly, horrible.
You made it too sad there. I was about to make a joke.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll try if you like.
I was going to be like,
but
maybe
on your head be it.
Yeah, maybe I was basically wondering, maybe the fact she hadn't checked the ball was why she wasn't in the team before. She wasn't caring about putting the team first.
I wouldn't go that far. It was also the second ball.
It was the second ball of the game.
And she's been out the side. She comes in because it's Dubai, and we think that in Dubai it might do a little bit more for the seam bowler. Darcy Brown had that one over that was a bit of a catastrophe. Poor old Grace Harris, my favourite, gets a first ball duck, so she's out. So in comes Tayla Valeminck, and if she'd bowled the first over, none of it would happen. Yeah. Or put another way, if only that ball had been left alone, because it was going to be a wide. It's going to be a wide. Everything about it was just so futile and so sad. And I think it puts her participation in the Ashes in jeopardy. It's only 3 months away.
Yeah.
Dislocated shoulders are nasty.
It was very upsetting, and from the context of Australia, it probably doesn't impact them too much. Beth Mooney, Alyssa Healy opted to bowl to their Dubai. That kind of broke from convention of the tournament, and they basically thought, like, as Daniel had mentioned, Dubai a bit more seamery, so they went with Valeminck. But in terms of, thank you very much, in terms of the next match, they can just go back to Darcy Brown. But the potentially much more seismic injury in the context of the competition is Alyssa Healy. As she was batting, she had to retire hurt. She's turning for 2. And there's kind of a bit of... We obviously record very close after the game finishes, but we waited a little bit to see if there was any word from the Aussie media. And at the moment, it's not been confirmed whether it's like she's pulled a muscle or if it's cramp. But, and I said this to you when we were walking towards the hotel, normally, if a captain of their country goes down and is potentially going to miss the chance to lift the World Cup, that is about as devastating an injury as it can happen, because the chances to win a World Cup are once in a lifetime, once in a generation event. Alyssa Healy has won about 14 of them. And so I'm kind of like, okay.
Got me captain, though.
Oh, okay. Why don't you say that to me outside? I seem like an idiot.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to sucker you into that.
Oh, my God.
I mean, she'll probably, she'll lift the next one. I guess. Yeah, it doesn't make an enormous amount of difference to them at all, does it? What happens is that Beth Mooney, if this is assuming that she is injured.
Yes, please paint me a picture of how they could line up.
So Beth Mooney takes the gloves. Somebody else opens, but they're not
Beth Mooney. Oh, sorry. Beth Mooney.
There's so many of them. With Valeminck out, Talia McGrath will do a bit more bowling. You could bring Grace Harris back. You could bring in Darcy Brown. You can bring in Kim Garth. It's not too much of an issue. In Sharjah, are they ever going to play in Sharjah again? I'm not sure if they do.
Yeah, Sunday against India.
Oh, Sunday against India. Well, we might get to see Alana King. You never know. I mean, it's one of the great mysteries of this tournament that they brought Alana King, and she's not bowled a ball or hit a ball or fielded a ball. Did she field a ball? I don't think she did,
They haven't fielded for very long. No one's got more than 90 against them.
Well, it took a little while today. It was 19.5 overs in fairness, but not an awful lot of running around.
Too much detail for me, though.
Yeah, it was... their squad, I think, can handle it. I mean, let's face it, they tend to go into each game with 8 frontline bowlers.
It really made me laugh today. I was reading like the Cricinfo preamble to the match, and they went, right, they've gone with Valeminck, so that means they've gone for a 5-seamer 3-spinner split. And I was like, what? I was like, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
No one goes into a match with 8 bowlers. It is. I'm really today.
You're lost for words, aren't you?
I'm lost for words. We were having a little bit of a laugh and joke about how I think, apart from India, New Zealand, and maybe Pakistan beating Sri Lanka right at the start.
South Africa, England.
No, I'm not talking about close matches. I'm talking about, like, could you have picked the winner beforehand? And the reason I mention that is because today, before these two teams have walked out, Hypercourse, the kind of saving grace, the patron saint of statistical women's cricket analysis,
absolutely,
of X,
Saint Hypercourse,
and they shared that the head-to-head record between these two teams was played 29, Australia won 29, Pakistan won 0. And it was like, Jesus Christ.
What were the odds, I wonder? Were they like 1 to 50?
Yeah, it would have been remarkable. And you kind of just see this gap that exists between Australia and the rest. And I'm very interested in how it's going to play out on Sunday when Australia come up against India, what that contest is going to be like. And I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Cool.
You've covered a number of Women's World Cups and covered the women's game for decades. We often talk about, and players talk about, and coaches talk about, kind of the gap between Australia, the best, and the rest is ever closing. And that was a big thing coming into this competition, that Australia were the most fallible they had ever been. So far, that is not looking like it's the case. To your own eye, from your own experience of covering the competition, from covering the women's game, has that gap been narrowing as far as your opinion is concerned?
Well, I thought it had, because I saw Sri Lanka do so well in England last year, and that was very positive. I also saw Pakistan cause England some trouble in May, although England won, and I don't think they were ever likely to lose any of those games. But Pakistan had a strategy, and they stuck to it, and I thought if you reduce the length of the game, so they tried it in 50-over cricket, and it did cause a few collywobbles for England. And I thought if you do that in 20-over cricket, you might get a bit lucky. They might induce a little bit of a collapse, and then a team like England, for example, which isn't quite as strong as Australia, doesn't bat as deep, then you could see a world in which you could imagine a world in which Pakistan beats England.
Yeah.
But I found them deeply disappointing. Sri Lanka have really disappointed me. Pakistan, I think, where Pakistan have gone wrong has been in the deployment of their best player, Fatima Sana.
Yeah.
And today they couldn't deploy her at all because, very sadly, her father's passed away. And so she had to leave and go back home. And she's so fabulous with both bat and ball. They were always going to lose today, but it might not have been quite like that. And if Pakistan earlier in the tournament had played with Fatima Sana higher up the order, they might have put on a bit of a better display against India, whom they actually only lost to by 7 runs because of the 7 balls, because of the pusillanimity of the bizarre Indian chase. So, I know. Every World Cup throws up disappointments in teams. I thought West Indies and New Zealand were deeply disappointing in South Africa. But then New Zealand came bursting into the World Cup with that win over India, and suddenly they felt much less disappointing. Then lost to Australia, but let's see how they shape up tomorrow. Like if they thrash Sri Lanka, then we'll think, well, maybe they'll put their bad trot behind them, and maybe they genuinely are in the mix. Only thing is, we saw them getting absolutely marmalised by Australia again, so it makes that feeling of the gap being wide continued, and maybe just every time Australia play, it makes the gap feel really wide. I mean, I'm really looking forward to India Australia. I know I sound enervated at the moment, but that game is going to tell us a fair bit. If India lose by 85 runs in that game, then it will be a kind of can you sum it up in a word? No, a noise. Yes, it would be a bit like that, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
and we sort of need that not to happen. I mentioned my theory yesterday about the big boundary size. I don't think today that made really any difference, although it was notable that Pakistan just failed to get a boundary at all in the first 9 overs. And they had a fielder caught on the boundary who looked like she'd actually got hold of it, but then you realise that the boundaries are too long and they don't have the power, the Pakistan women, to clear those boundaries unless, you're talking about Alia Riaz or Fatima Sana. Those are 2 players who could, but that didn't happen. So that's partly what makes it feel more dominant, because it's almost as if Australia are inhabiting this space and inhabiting all of it.
Yeah.
And Pakistan are only able to play in a smaller amount of it. Do you know what I mean? So
completely.
Spatially, when you look at the field of play, you go, Australia fill it. Pakistan inhabit a tiny portion of it.
It's like what we were touching upon yesterday, where I was trying to explain the idea that you're effectively playing without boundaries. You're effectively playing like timeless test, boundaryless cricket. And so that means that you have to earn absolutely all of your runs. And if you have to earn everything, then when you reduce the amount of fortune and luck and chance, it then reverts purely down to skill. And you're seeing that gap between the teams. I think it's important. It's important. Sorry?
Important.
Well, I was just doubting I doubt whether anything I say is important, to be honest. And I was having it again.
You doubt it in the middle of the word important.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Just to add drama. We basically looked back and we were trying to work out whether this World Cup is an anomaly or an exception in how few close games there have been. Compared to the 2023 Women's T20 World Cup, it has been very different. That Women's World Cup, it opened up with a 3-run win for South Africa against the West Indies, or vice versa. The 2 semi-finals were won by 5 and 6 runs respectively. And we obviously have the chance for that to happen here, where you have an incredibly exciting semi-finals and final, and you go, God, brilliant, what a competition. But then if you think a bit about it in the context of the wider general comments about World Cups, it happened in the 2023 Men's ODI World Cup. They went, what the hell? There's no close matches happening. It was a thing in 2019 as well, unless I'm mistaken.
It was for a while, yeah.
And I do think we often delude ourselves as cricket fans with how regular close games are. And I think maybe because the matches aren't being close and the cricket's being stodgy, you don't have one of the two saving graces. If the cricket's free flowing and lopsided, then you at least see someone on top of their game, and you see something that wows you and impresses you, and you go home, you go, you know what? It was an 80-run win. It wasn't a contest, but my God, I got to watch Elise Perry at her best, or my God, I got to get to watch Megan Schutt at her best, or whatever. And I feel like we're being kind of robbed on both sides of the ledger.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the problems with international cricket as well, isn't it? Because one of the things that people love about a franchise tournament is that, in theory, sides are brought closer together by the fact that, you know, you can pick people from everywhere. And people tend to go into a match with 5 batters and 5 bowlers and a keeper, or 5 batters and 4 frontline bowlers and 2 other bowlers.
Yeah.
Australia go into the game with 10 batters and 8 bowlers. And of course, that doesn't happen in franchise cricket because they get spread around. And so you see this like massive difference between Australia and Pakistan, which you don't see in the Women's Premier League. You know, you don't see it in the 100. You do get closer games in franchise leagues, and that makes the spectacle. It seems to make the spectacle that much better. Of course, the difference is that no one remembers who wins the franchise league, whereas you do remember who wins a World Cup.
Australia,
largely because it's very easy to remember. Yes.
Imagine doing a Sporkle quiz of Women's World Cup winners. Australia.
Yeah.
The whole thing fills.
Australia.
Right, hang on. I'm going to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back. We're going to have Daniel's wonderful ad read, and we're going to have the Hall of Fame, which I'm going to be honest, is looking a tough ride at the moment. But we'll get there. We'll be back in 3, 2, 1. Pause. And we're back. It's the Final Word Daily, brought to you by Ambassador Cruise Line and brought to you by Daniel Norcross's wonderful nighttime readings.
Where does Harry Brooks' triple century rank?
It's staying in. It's staying in.
Oh, blimey. I'll do that again.
Thank you.
Where does Harry Brooks' triple century rank amongst the rest? Wouldn't it be great to ask Aggers how it compared to Lara in 94 and 04, Amla in 2012 and Carol Nair in 2016? Who can forget? Blowers was there for a few of them too. He was there for Carol Nair, certainly. And how about Graham Gooch? He scored one. Ambassador Cruise Line can give you the opportunity to chew the cud on triple tons with 2 callers who have seen a range of them, and the daddy of daddy tons, Graham Gooch himself. You could ask Alex Tudor what his 99 not out is weighted for inflation. Surely he would fancy his chances on a flat Pakistani deck. Take the opportunity with Ambassador to talk cricket on the seas for 7 nights. All this at the ridiculously generous starting price of £559 per person. And that's before you get 10% off because you listen to us. It's incredibly easy. Just visit ambassadorcruiseline.com and pop in
Final Word 10.
Well done. At last. At checkout. Final Word 10 at the checkout. And you'll be sailing away beating the winter blues. It's in the show notes. Check it out. Ambassador Cruise Line, giving you the chance to cruise with cricket legends this December.
Wonderful as ever. I remember a friend of mine was at the Oval for Hashim Amla's triple ton and said it was the most boring day's cricket he's ever seen.
I can concur. I watched that in a windowless room at Westminster University because we were doing that for Test Match Sofa.
Oh, nice.
And that was our studio at the time. And it was an incredibly wet summer, if you recall, and the sun came out in time for the Olympics and the Oval Test match.
Wonderful. Do you have a Hall of Fame today?
Well, the thing about the Hall of Fames is it's really that they're sort of injuries. Yeah. I hate to say it, but
does today deserve one? Should we punish the Hall of Fame by putting nothing in it?
Yeah, maybe. Hang on. There was one. There was Ultra Edge. Had a little bit of a strange wobble when there just seemed to be things going fluffy constantly.
Brilliant.
So somebody was given out.
Lads, that's on you. That's on you, boys.
And it was overturned because Ultra Edge just kept on having a flutter. So there was. I mean, that was kind of the most interestingly weird thing that happened today. And just the. I mean, it's very sad for Tayla Valeminck, but cruel people.
Fleming in the Hall of Fame. We're popping a shoulder.
Well, I think it's because, you think about someone waiting all this time to get their chance. She gets a chance. And because she was Australian, She ran very, very hard to try and stop the ball.
Yeah.
And she did a brilliant job in doing it. And the cruelty of cricket is that you don't get rewarded for doing good things. Did she save the 4? She saved the 4.
Oh, nice.
It was brilliant. It reminded me
just kept running, they might have won.
It reminded me of Jack Leach when he did the same thing at Lord's. Do you remember?
That was so fun.
And it's so Jack Leach thing to do. Now, I don't know if this is a Tayla Valeminck thing to do because she's so early on in her career.
Now.
We don't know what her body of work is like. But
we know what her body's like. Not in good shape.
Well, no, not at the moment.
No.
But this could be a recurring theme. Let's hope not for Taylor's case. But, in 4 or 5 years, she might get back into the side for the first time in a couple of years and then dislocate her finger or something by your accident.
Taylor's got the rough end of the stick from today's episode. I'm really sorry.
Take it out of the Hall of Fame. Poor Taylor. We're sending our best wishes. That's from the entire Final Word community, by the way.
Right. Today has been day 9. Weirdly, I think we've actually had quite a measured conversation and discussed the intricacies and caveats and nuances of the competition.
We've been forced into it.
We've been forced into it because we'd have loved to tell you about the cricket, but not very much of it happened. Right, Ambassador Cruise Line. If you want to go cruising with cricket legends in December, they're your people, they're your folks. Final Word 10 for a discount. We'll be back tomorrow for day 10. Back to the double headers. We have New Zealand versus Sri Lanka in Sharjah, and then we have Bangladesh versus South Africa from Dubai. We'll be back in these seats, and you'll be back in your seats. See you and speak to you then.
Dubai, wipe a tear, baby dear, from your eye.
It's lovely. Cool.